If you want to know whether a man is still being controlled or not, do not look at him when everything is going well. Look at him when he is insulted. Look at him when his message is not answered. Look at him when someone becomes cold toward him. Look at him when someone deliberately misunderstands him. Deliberately stays silent. Deliberately withdraws attention just to see whether he will lose control. Because the real person is not revealed when he is loved. The real person is revealed when his weak point is touched. Some people only need to be ignored for a few hours before they begin lowering themselves. Some people only need to hear one false statement about them before they immediately rush into explaining until they are exhausted. Some people only need to see someone leave before they forget their self-respect, forget their standards, and forget everything they once promised themselves. They think it is love. They think it is sincerity. They think it is because they are emotional human beings. But many times, it is only a mind that has not yet learned how to stand on its own. The world does not need strength to control you. It only needs to know what you fear. It does not need to defeat you directly. It only needs to know which button makes you react. If you fear being abandoned, people will use distance to punish you. If you need recognition, people will use praise to lead you. If you cannot endure silence, people will stay silent to make you destroy yourself from within. If you always want to be understood, people will deliberately misunderstand you to pull you into an endless war of explanation. This is a hard truth to hear. Many people do not truly live by their own will. They live by other people's reactions. One compliment lifts them up. One criticism pulls them down. One fast reply makes them feel valuable. One silence makes them doubt their entire self. Their mood is not in their own hands. It is in their phone, in someone's eyes, in someone's reply, in someone else's attitude, and that is a very dangerous form of weakness. It is not dangerous because it makes you cry. It is dangerous because it makes you hand over control of your life to things that are not worthy of it. You begin reacting too quickly, talking too much, explaining for too long, waiting until you are exhausted, forgiving too easily, returning too many times. Every time you do that, you teach other people that as long as they touch the right emotion, they can make you step outside of yourself. A truly strong man does not operate like that. He is not a man who does not feel pain. He feels pain. But he does not let pain turn him into someone who begs. He gets angry. But he does not let anger turn him into someone who loses control. He misses someone. But he does not let longing drag him back to a place that once made him smaller. He is misunderstood. But he does not trade his calm just to convince people who never wanted to understand him in the first place. Strength begins in one very small moment, the moment you want to react. But you stop. You want to send one more message. But you put the phone down. You want to explain yourself so you can be seen correctly. But you realize the other person is not looking for the truth. They are only looking for your reaction. You want to prove that you are not weak. But you understand that the more you try to prove it, the more you reveal that you have been touched. You want to chase. But for the first time, you stand still, not because your emotions are gone, but because you have begun to have discipline over your own emotions. That is when a human being begins to change. Not when he says he is stronger. Not when he posts cold quotes for others to see. Not when he tries to act as if he does not care. But when, in an old situation where he once reacted in an old way, this time he chooses differently. He does not text. He does not explain. He does not beg. He does not lower his standards. He does not turn loneliness into a reason to return to something that once wounded him. This video is not about becoming an emotionless person. It is about stopping your emotions from turning you into someone who is easy to control. It is about building an inner zone of silence, where insults can no longer immediately pull you down. Rejection can no longer immediately break you. And someone's coldness no longer has enough power to make you forget your own worth. Because the day you no longer need the world's reaction to know who you are, you will begin to become very different. Quieter, slower, harder to read, not to put on an image, not to appear mysterious. But because you have understood that everything you react to can control you, and once you learn how not to react to everything, the world will no longer be able to hold your mind as easily as it once did. Part 1. Do not let the world control your mind. There is a kind of strength that the world finds very hard to conquer. It does not come from being loud. It does not come from having to appear aggressive. It also does not come from the need to prove that you are stronger than other people. That strength exists in a deeper place, inner calm. A calm steady enough not to be shaken by insults, not to be weakened by praise, not to be knocked down by rejection, and not to be controlled by the noise of the world when others attack. A man with true character does not rush to strike back. When he is misunderstood, he does not immediately run into explanations as if his worth depends on whether other people understand him or not. When someone tries to create pressure, tries to make him afraid, tries to force him to react immediately, he still keeps his slowness, not because he feels nothing, but because he understands that reacting too quickly is often the sign of a mind that has not yet been mastered. Most people are not defeated by enemies outside of them. They are defeated by the need to be recognized. They want to be liked. They want to be praised. They want to be seen as good, as right, as valuable. They want others to understand them, believe them, choose them, and stay with them. And it is that very craving that makes them easy to control, because anything you need too much from other people can become the rope they use to pull you. If someone knows you need praise, they can use praise to lead you down the path they want. If they know you are afraid of being abandoned, they can use distance to make you panic. If they know you cannot endure silence, they can stay silent to force you to lose your calm. If they know you need to be explained to, need to be heard, need to be acknowledged, they can deliberately misunderstand you to make you enter a battle of proving yourself. This is how control works. It does not need chains. It only needs to know where your weakness is. An unstable mind reacts to everything outside of it. One compliment can make it arrogant. One criticism can make it collapse. One unanswered message can make it anxious. One cold glance can make it doubt its own value. One rejection can make it chase just to recover the feeling of being chosen. And when you let the outside world decide your inner state, you are no longer truly free. You are only living according to emotional buttons that other people can press at any moment. A strong man does not build himself on the reaction of the crowd. He does not let praise turn him into someone dependent. He does not let criticism turn him into someone who loses direction. He does not let attention make him weaker. He does not let someone's silence make him lose his self-respect. He knows who he is before the world has a chance to define him. He knows his worth before someone recognizes it. He knows his path before the applause appears. This is the first step to becoming someone who cannot be controlled. You must stop asking the world for permission to feel valuable. You must stop looking at other people's reactions to decide whether you should feel confident or ashamed, whether you should stand firm or fall apart, whether you should continue or give up. The moment your worth depends on outside eyes. Anyone who controls those eyes can also control you. Understand this deeply. Praise can feel pleasant, but it must not become your source of life. Recognition can make you happy, but it must not become the foundation of your self-respect. Other people's approval can be a gift, but it must not become the condition for you to feel worthy, because everything that comes from outside can be taken away. And if you build yourself on things that can be taken away, you will always live in fear. A man with true character is not someone who feels nothing. He still knows pain. He still knows anger. He still knows disappointment. He still has moments of loneliness, exhaustion, hurt, and the desire to give up. But the difference is that he does not let emotion take the wheel. He can be in pain, but he does not let pain decide his actions. He can be angry, but he does not hand control over to his anger. He can be disappointed, but he does not let disappointment destroy his direction. He can be lonely, but he does not let loneliness turn him into prey for temporary attention. Emotion is a signal, not a command. It tells you what is happening inside, but it should not decide who you become outside. If you are sad, observe the sadness. If you are angry, observe the anger. If you are afraid, look directly at the fear, but do not act immediately as if every emotion is an absolute truth. A self-controlled man does not deny his emotions. He simply does not kneel before them. The world will always create noise. People will always have something to say. They will judge you when you are silent. They will doubt you when you change. They will misunderstand you when you no longer live in the way they are used to. They will try to pull you back into the old version of yourself, because the old version of you was more predictable, easier to control, and easier to access. But noise is not a command. Judgment is not truth. And another person's misunderstanding is not the sentence of your life. A person who is truly hard to control is someone who can hear every noise and still not leave his own center. He does not need to react to every provocation. He does not need to prove himself to every doubtful gaze. He does not need to explain himself to people who have already decided not to understand. He walks by his own decision, not by the permission of the world. And when you no longer let the world control your mind, you begin to enter a state of true freedom. Not freedom because no one says anything about you, but freedom because no matter what they say, you still know who you are. Not freedom because no one leaves, but freedom because even if someone leaves, you still do not abandon yourself. That is the first foundation of strength, a mind that is no longer held by the strings of the world. Part 2. Separate emotion from action. If you want to become someone who is not easily led, not easily manipulated, and not easily pulled into other people's psychological games, you must learn one very important thing. Do not let emotion immediately turn into action. Between what you feel and what you decide to do, there must be a gap quiet enough for you to look back at yourself, a gap deep enough for you not to act like someone being controlled. And it is inside that gap that your real power begins to form. A person who has not mastered himself usually reacts the moment his emotions are touched. He gets angry and immediately says words that make him regret them later. He becomes afraid and immediately retreats before he fully understands the situation. He feels abandoned and immediately runs after the person who made him hurt. He feels insulted and immediately tries to prove his worth. In that moment, he thinks he is protecting his honor, protecting his feelings, protecting his position, but in reality, he is handing other people the map to control him, because every impulsive reaction reveals a weakness. When you get angry too quickly, others know where your ego can be pierced. When your jealousy becomes too obvious, they know what insecurity is living inside you. When you rush to hold on, they know what you are afraid of losing. When you explain too much, they know you still crave recognition. And once other people understand your emotional buttons, they do not need to be stronger than you. They only need to know exactly where to press. So learn how to slow down. Not slow because you are weak, but slow because you are awake enough not to be dragged away. When someone deliberately provokes you, do not rush to respond as if you must defend yourself immediately. When someone creates a sense of urgency, do not let their panic become your command. When someone makes you feel guilty, do not immediately bow your head. Stop and ask yourself, did I truly do something wrong? Or are they using guilt to pressure me into doing what they want? A cold man is not someone who does not know pain. He still feels. He still has anger. Still has wounds. Still has fear. Still has moments when his heart is stretched by loss, longing, and disappointment. But the difference is that he does not hand command over to those emotions. He does not let anger control his mouth. He does not let fear control his feet. He does not let loneliness make him return to places that once destroyed him. He observes emotion the way he observes a storm passing through the sky of his inner world, knowing it is real, but not kneeling before it. This is the boundary between reaction and choice. Reaction is when you let emotion decide for you. Choice is when you feel everything very clearly, but still keep control over your actions. Reaction makes you predictable. Choice makes you harder to grasp. A predictable person can be led away with only a few words, a few silences, a few cold actions. But a person who knows how to choose is no longer controlled by external signals. Others do not know whether to use anger, guilt, silence, or provocation to pull him away from his center. To reach that point, you do not need to begin with big things. Begin with very small moments. When you want to text immediately, put the phone down for a few minutes. When you want to explain because you are afraid of being misunderstood, ask yourself whether the other person truly wants to understand you or is only trying to pull you into a defensive position. When you want to prove that you are right, ask yourself whether winning this argument will truly make your life better. When you want to react because you feel insulted, remember that not everyone who throws stones deserves your attention. Not every battle needs your presence. Not every attack deserves your reply. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected immediately. Some people are not looking for the truth. They are only looking for your reaction. Some arguments are not meant to create understanding. They are meant to make you lose your calm. Some situations are created not to solve a problem, but to test whether they still have power over you. And if you step into every trap just because your emotions have been touched, you are living like a person being pulled by strings. Silence, in many cases, is not defeat. Silence is how you keep your energy. Silence is how you refuse to turn yourself into an actor in someone else's drama. Silence is how you say, I see this, but I do not need to lower myself to take part in it. When you no longer react in the way others expect, you begin to take back your power. Not the power to control them, but the power not to be controlled by them. A strong man is not someone who is never hurt. He is someone who does not let pain turn him into someone who loses control. He does not deny emotion, but he also does not obey emotion. He knows pain, but he does not let pain choose his path. He knows anger, but he does not let anger destroy his honor. He knows fear, but he does not let fear decide his destiny. When you master the pause between emotion and action, you master your reaction. When you master your reaction, you master your choices. And when you master your choices, very few people can still control your life, because the hardest person to control is not the loudest, the coldest, or the most frightening. It is the person who has learned how to stand still within himself, even when the outside world is trying to shake him. Part 3. Protect your privacy. Hold firm to your goal. In this age, people are tempted to expose themselves more than ever before. The world wants to know what you are thinking, who you are sad because of, what you are angry about, what you are craving, what you are afraid of losing, and what you are quietly building behind closed doors. It encourages you to speak every emotion, share every plan, post every small victory, tell every wound, and reveal every moment of weakness. But the dangerous thing is this: not everyone who sees your truth knows how to respect it. And not everything that is revealed remains under your control. A mature man understands that privacy is not avoidance. It is a layer of armor. It protects the most important parts of who he is from curious eyes, from cheap judgment, and from the interference of people who have no right to step into his life. He does not need to announce every intention before it is strong enough. He does not need to turn every pain into a story to ask for pity. He does not need to explain every emotion to people who only want to listen so they can judge, not so they can understand. He knows that his inner world is sacred ground, and not everyone deserves permission to enter. If other people do not know what makes you tremble, it will be difficult for them to use that fear to control you. If they do not know what you desire so deeply that it makes you lose your calm, it will be difficult for them to use it as bait. If they do not know the direction you are moving in, it will be difficult for them to place obstacles in front of you before you arrive. A person who is too easy to read will always be easy to lead. A person who reveals too much removes his own layer of defense. A person who speaks too much about the future often unknowingly invites doubt, jealousy, sabotage, and gossip to enter before the foundation has even had time to harden. Living privately does not mean living falsely. You do not need to wear a mask. You do not need to create a person who is not real. You only need to know how to choose carefully. There are truths that should only be given to people with enough depth to hold them. There are plans that should only be spoken when they have already taken shape. There are pains that should only be shared with people who will not turn them into weapons. Maturity begins when you understand that not everyone who asks needs to be answered. Not everyone who is curious deserves to know. And not every truth needs to be placed before the crowd. Learn how to build in silence. Do not make noise before you have a foundation. Do not announce your change when you have only just begun. Do not say that you will become stronger. Live with so much discipline that your strength becomes its own evidence. Do not tell others that you are no longer who you used to be. Let your stability, your calm, and your results force them to recognize it. People who talk too much often spend their energy creating an impression. People who truly go far use that energy to build themselves. But privacy alone is still not enough. A person can be private and still lose direction. A person can speak little and still be pulled away by emotion, pleasure, tension, and rejection. So, alongside protecting your inner world, you must also hold firm to your outer goal, because a man without a goal will always become prey to circumstance. Today he lives by inspiration. Tomorrow he gives up because he is tired. When he is praised, he becomes excited. When he is treated coldly, he collapses. When someone brings him comfort, he forgets the path he once chose. A strong man does not operate his life by mood. He does not wait for motivation before he takes action. He does not ask his emotions whether he should continue today or not. He continues because he has seen the person he needs to become. He understands that each wasted day is not only a day lost, it is a piece of the future being stolen. Every time he indulges a weak habit, every time he ignores discipline, every time he lets distraction defeat him, he is taking strength away from his future self. The goal must be greater than the mood. The mission must be greater than comfort. Discipline must be greater than temporary inspiration. When you have a clear direction, you are no longer easily pulled away from your axis by anyone. One compliment does not make you fly too high. One criticism does not make you fall too deep. One rejection does not make you lose direction. One sweet temptation is not enough to make you betray your future. You know what you are building. And because of that, you no longer live like someone being carried away by every outside call. Remember that not everything attractive is meant for you. Not every opportunity that looks good is suitable for your path. Not every person who makes you feel comfortable should be allowed to step into your life. Not every open door is a door you must walk through. A person who lacks focus only knows how to reject bad things. But a person with vision also knows how to reject good things that are moving in the wrong direction. That is true discipline. Because good is not the final standard. Alignment is the standard. Something can be good, but not serve your goal. A relationship can feel comfortable, but make you weaker. An opportunity can look shiny, but pull you away from your main path. A pleasure can seem harmless in the eyes of others, but quietly steal your focus. If something does not bring you closer to the person you are building, then in some way, it is pulling you farther away. Protect your privacy as if you were protecting strategic ground. Hold your goal as if you were holding the final flame in the darkness. Do not let the world know too much before you are strong enough. Do not let temporary emotions redirect your life. Do not let attention, pleasure, or the wrong invitation make you forget who you are becoming. The man who is difficult to defeat is the man who knows how to keep hidden what must be kept hidden, knows how to reject what must be rejected, and knows how to keep walking even when no one sees that he is fighting. Parfois, become untouchable. The highest form of strength is not turning yourself into someone emotionless, cold, and incapable of love. That is a very common misunderstanding. True strength is not found in no longer feeling anything. It is found in no longer allowing anything outside of you to easily pull you away from yourself. Becoming untouchable does not mean you do not have a heart. It means your heart is no longer in the hands of people who do not know how to protect it. You are no longer controlled by one insult. You no longer let one disrespectful look make you lose your calm. You no longer chase after someone who chose to leave your life. You no longer collapse just because someone misunderstands you, judges you wrongly, or deliberately distorts who you are. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to people who have already decided that they do not want to understand. You no longer turn loneliness into a reason to open the door to anyone who brings a little temporary attention and then leaves when they become bored. An untouchable person is not someone who locks away every emotion. He is still capable of love. But that love no longer means losing himself. He can still forgive. But forgiveness does not have to come with allowing an old person to return and repeat an old wound. He can still miss someone. But longing does not turn him into a beggar. He can still feel pain. But pain no longer has enough power to make him betray his own self-respect. One of the clearest signs of a strong man is the ability to walk away. Not to walk away with childish anger. Not to walk away for revenge. To cause pain, or to make someone regret losing him, but to walk away with calmness, because he understands that there are places where staying longer only makes him smaller. There are relationships where trying harder to hold on only wears down his dignity. There are people who only learn to respect you when they are no longer allowed to access you the way they once did. Never use your presence to reward disrespect. Your time is not something everyone has the right to spend. Your attention is not a cheap gift to give to people who only know how to drain you. Your loyalty is not a shelter for people who repeatedly betray your trust. Each of those things is a privilege, and privilege should not be placed in careless hands. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries but still receives all of your gentleness, all of your time, and all of your patience, then you are silently teaching them that your boundaries have no consequences. A boundary without action behind it is only a weak sentence. You do not need to shout to prove that you are serious. You do not need to argue until you are exhausted to make others understand your limits. Sometimes, a calm withdrawal is the strongest answer. There are lessons that do not need to be spoken in words. Your absence alone can be enough to say everything. Let distance say what your presence has said too many times but was not heard. Let silence put an end to the old loops. Let the fact that you no longer appear the way you once did become evidence that you have stepped into another level of awareness, not to punish anyone, not to make anyone suffer, but to remind yourself that self-respect cannot live forever in a place where it is treated lightly. But do not waste your pain. A weak person gets hurt and only becomes bitter. An awakened person gets hurt and becomes wiser. If someone betrays you, do not only ask why they did it. Ask why you trusted for so long when the signs had already appeared. If someone manipulates you, do not only curse them. Look back and see what part of you was so hungry to be loved, chosen, and recognize that you ignored your own intuition. If someone breaks you down, learn to recognize the type of person, the type of words, and the type of behavior that led you there. Pain only becomes meaningless when you fail to draw wisdom from it. Every wound should make your eyes sharper. Every loss should raise your standards higher. Every time you are treated as unimportant should remind you that your presence is not meant for everyone. You do not need to become frozen before life. You only need to become someone who is no longer easily bought with a few sweet words, no longer easily pulled back by empty apologies, and no longer easily forgets himself just because someone returns at the exact moment he feels weak. The goal is not to become so cold that you can no longer feel. The goal is to become so aware that you can no longer be deceived by the things that once made you blind. You can still be soft, but you must not be fragile. You can still love, but you must not abandon yourself. You can still open your heart, but you must know which doors need to be locked. That is maturity. That is strength. That is self-control. In the end, the strongest man is not the one who speaks the loudest, threatens the most, or tries the hardest to prove that he is dangerous. He is the man who can control himself in the moments when others expect him to lose control. He speaks less, but sees more clearly. He observes more, but reacts less. He builds in silence. He carefully chooses who is allowed to step into his space. He no longer needs the whole world to understand him, because he has understood himself. The moment you no longer need other people to decide your worth, you become free. The moment you no longer react to every provocation, you become strong. And the moment you're past loneliness, emotions, or need for recognition can no longer steer your life, you become the kind of person the world no longer knows how to control. Be cold not because you are emotionless, but because you are clear. Be silent not because you are weak, but because you no longer need to prove anything. Be focused not because you are afraid of getting lost, but because you have chosen your path. When there is nothing inside you that can be easily grabbed, the world cannot rule you, because what cannot be touched, in the end, cannot be conquered. And before we close this video, remember the most important thing. True strength does not begin with controlling other people. It begins the moment you learn to control yourself. When you know how to separate emotion from action, you are no longer prey to provocation. When you know how to protect your privacy, you no longer hand the world things that can be used against you. When you hold firm to your goal, you are no longer pulled away by mood, temporary attention, or temptations that lead in the wrong direction. And when you learn how to walk away from places where you are treated as unimportant, you begin to understand that self-respect is not a word, it is an action. Becoming untouchable does not mean you become cold, emotionless, or distant from everyone. It means you are no longer easily controlled by fear, loneliness, the past, recognition, or the words of other people. You can still love, but you do not lose yourself. You can still forgive, but you do not reopen the door to disrespect. You can still feel deeply, but you do not let emotion take the wheel of your life. From today on, live more privately, react more slowly, observe more, speak less, build more. Do not rush to prove that you have changed. Let your calm, your discipline, and your results speak for you. Because a truly strong person does not need noise in order to be recognized. His presence alone is enough for others to feel his standards, his boundaries, and his inner strength. If this video helped you look back at yourself and understand the value of silence, self-control, and self-respect, press like to support the video. Subscribe to the channel to continue receiving deeper lessons that help you become calmer, stronger, and harder to control every day. And if you are ready to step into the new version of yourself, leave a comment saying, "I control myself." Because the moment you no longer let the outside world control your inner world, you have already begun to become the kind of person who cannot be touched.